Jovan, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. I am an inventor and pattern recognition expert. I'm also part of the Gold Institute of International Strategy out of Washington, D.C. So to understand what I'm going to talk about today, even though I'm a technology guy, my goal is to make it really simple, really obvious. I'm not going to be talking about codes on machines, how things are swapped, server overseas. I'm just going to show you the simple basis of what possibly went on, but most importantly, how this is fixed, how it's detected, fixed, and will never happen again. And that basically is based on my technology background for over the last 30 years. Just so you have a little basis in it. The fact that your phone now can scan a barcode in any grocery store or any kind of code, or in fact you hear Q codes here today, any type of machine readable code as it talks to the internet, that's my technology. It's a basis of my patent portfolio of about 200 patents on that particular one. My patents are so prolific in licensing that every manufacturer in the world basically licenses my patents to use on any mobile device except one, Huawei out of China. They don't license it, they just use it. And I'm on approximately about 12 billion devices globally. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, keeping it simple. What could have happened here? How can it be detected and confirmed? And then how can this whole be plugged from now on? Because this is about vote verification. It's 3 Ps that I'm going to deal with today. First, the people. Second, paper. And 3, protection. That's all this is about. So if we'll go on the next slide, if you just rolled up for me, I want to kind of show you what I'm talking about when I talk about kinematic artifacts. Kinematic is just a nerdy word for evidence on paper. When 2 physical forces come together, right, and a paper is bent, there's always going to be an example of that. All of us have dealt with this. Machines have very hard, strict rules. You can go to the bank, you can use your debit card. If you put in your PIN wrong, it kicks it back. It keeps asking you, no, correct this, no, correct this. Now, you know your money's there, but if you enter your PIN wrong, it won't work. Same thing with your password for your email. So machines have very, very hard rules. A lot of those rules are also in the physical world. So before anything became a rule of a machine, it became a rule in the physical world. That means somebody's hand put it in. In this case, it's paper. What I'm going to be talking about is kinematic artifacts. That's the fold that's left over. You take a brand new dollar bill and you fold it. That fold will always be there. Go to a coin machine and a snack machine, trying to get a snack out of it and put in your dollar bill, and it kicks it back. It's the machine saying, something's not right about this dollar. It's broken. It's messed up. The color's not right. We have all experienced this before. What I'm going to be talking about is kinematic artifacts. If we'll move on to the next PDF, please. I'm going to show you how my process of our team, what we're going to do, and if we can enlarge that, that'd be great, is we can detect what I'm calling the counterfeit. There is nothing new that I'm going to be sharing with you today. This is how counterfeit bills are detected. This is how counterfeit art is detected. This has already been adjudicated. It's not new science. It's just never been applied to these very important things in our process. It's about the people. The people want confidence that their vote matters, period. I personally do not care how this comes down, but I do care about the vote being counted and the vote mattering. Whatever our system can detect, and that's what we're here to do, is offer something that can remedy this immediately. The numbers will speak for themselves. The people need that confidence. We need to give the people of Georgia that confidence. But this is not about Georgia. The United States is watching. And this is also not about the United States. The entire world is watching this process. You know, people come, when I was coming in here to Georgia last night, yes, sir.
Mr. Bolton, let me ask you a question. You talk about counterfeit. If we were able to get our hands on those...
Senator Beach, can you speak into the microphone so people can hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Pulitzer, thank you for testifying.
Thank you.
If you were able to take counterfeit, if you were able to get your hands on the State Farm Arena absentee, on the ballots that were run between 10:30 and 1:30 in the morning, would you be able to tell if they were folded, and would you be able to tell if they were counterfeit?
We would be able to tell if they were folded, if they were counterfeit, whether they were filled out by a human hand, whether they were printed by a machine, whether they were batch fed continually over and over. We can detect every bit of that.
Thank you.
Certainly. And so coming here last night, I drove in. The driver from Uber, his fellow name was Christopher. He was Nigerian. He came here to start a business. He's been here 5 years. He legally immigrated here. His brother came first, and he's hoping for his next two sisters to come. And his whole goal is to start a tire company because it's about capitalism for him. He says, I want my own business. He was a lecturer on economics in Nigeria. But he came here because he wanted what we had here in the United States and in the state of Georgia. Opportunity, right? But more importantly, if you look at the people that come to this country, it's not just about opportunity and freedoms. They are coming to our country from countries that have one additional thing. They come from countries where their votes don't matter, where their votes mean nothing. And they know here in the United States what we're supposed to stand for is votes matter. Your voice, one voice matter. And so that little bitty piece of paper that we're all talking about here, the ballot, it got chosen too. It was a generic piece of paper, and one day it comes out in a system, it's a ballot. However, when that ballot is filled in by a voter, it becomes a historical artifact. It is what changes that very simple piece of paper into something that can change or guide a nation. And so we have to look at these artifacts. We have to look at this documentation of what the one person expressed in their intent. And so we're getting confused in machines. Let's just talk about that piece of paper because it's about voter intent. And if there are problems, if there are issues in machines, if there are counterfeits, everybody wants them detected because at the core of this is each vote must count. Let me show you what a kinematic artifact is. It stands to reason that in an election that comes down to the propensity of a tremendous amount of mail-in ballots, that a very simple process occurred. That piece of paper should have been folded and sent to you at home. A printer prints it out. That printer folds it. It goes into an envelope. It's tracked in the process. United States Post Office sends it out. That is tracked. It comes to your home. You receive it. You open it up. Chances are you didn't vote right then. You kind of put it off a little bit. You opened it 2 or 3 times. You finally got around to it. You put your pen to it. You folded it back, put it in an envelope, and sent it back. That entire process is a folding and rolling process. Every time that piece of paper is opened and refolded, it's like a hinge. Remember, a paper is nothing but a reconstituted tree. So it's constantly breaking fibers. It is actually changing that piece of paper into something else that it can never be hidden once it's done. This is what's called a kinematic artifact. So what you're looking at on the screen is just a simple fold. Looking at it through a computer, the things the human eyes can't see. But if you look at this, you can see even the paper on the front side of the fold to the back side of the fold changes frequency. It becomes a whole different level of light frequency. If you look at the bottom, on the left, you're looking at an oval filled out by a machine. The two on the right are by human hands. The first one, that's somebody who fills in a circular motion. Handwriting is the opposite of a rocket. Rockets take off, impact. Handwriting is impact, and then you're filling in that circle, and no matter how creative or non-creative you are, your mind goes, oh, I'm finished with that. But that finish process happens in your brain first, pen second. And so you always start to lighten the load. And so those little bitty light areas you're seeing is the load being lightened by the person's hands. The second one is actually a gel pen. If you look at the one on the left, that's done by a machine. A machine can never hide that it was a machine. Can't. Because the same process of printing the ballot is the same process of printing the vote. Is there another page in this slide? Let's look at these a little bit closer in it. Go on to the next one, please. You can roll them up. So keep on going. So you're looking at 4 forms of human dynamic. First, we want to know where these things mailed. That's the definition of a mail-in ballot. Second, we're supposed to vote for them individually by person in hand. If you have a machine one in there, you didn't cast it by hand. You're looking at the 4 different types. Every pen has a signature. Every ink has a forensic signature. Every hand has a different stroke. You're looking at circular, scribbler, right? Inside out, gel, and Sharpie. Now let's go up to the next one, please. No, other direction. Thank you. Keep on going. Now look at the bottom in the machine. If you're looking at it, you can see the difference between the two. The handwritten one, the ink is over the paper. Look at the bottom one. That's a machine filling in an oval, and that's a machine filling in a scribble. But you can still see through it. You see all the little bitty dots? That's because the machine still prints the same exact way, just a little denser. It can always be detected. And unless the ballots all had original scribbles, that scribble can be detected. Every time that scribble shows up, we find it, we map it, and all of a sudden, if you have 50 of these scribbles, or even if you have 2, you technically have a problem. We'll go to the next part of the slide, next presentation, please. And so, things I'm hearing about that concern me. And this is what concerned me when I looked into this. So I'm the guy that told the world that, hey, that little bitty barcode that means a product can talk to the internet. And so things started to be tracked that way. Everything you see sitting out here on the committee's table that has a barcode can now talk to the internet. That's what I'm responsible for, making the physical world talk to the internet world. What bothers me in this process is to continually hear there is no, when you get adjudication, there's no paper trail. Or that's kind of wiped, or you can't tell what the predecessor was. That's disturbing. That's the first rule of forensic audits. And if it was an accountant in a corporation, you'd be fired. If you ran the financials for a public company and the numbers didn't match, and all of a sudden you couldn't adjudicate it and show the records, you'd go to prison. Now this is as simple as scanning a loaf of bread at a grocery store. When you walk in and buy a loaf of bread and it works off that barcode, that's your vote. You're walking in saying, I want this bread, this is my candidate. You walk up to the cash register, you're handing it to the checker or you're doing it yourself. That's basically the polling machine. And when that scan happens, it goes, a loaf of bread, $2. That's what you expect, that's what you committed to. But if all of a sudden that scan said, sorry, it's a transmission change for your car, you owe us $5,000, you would have a conniption fit. What's sad about this is we're not even performing at standards that we expect out of grocery stores. We're not even performing at standards that you would accept from your online purchase. When you fill that shopping cart, you expect that shopping cart to be exactly what you chose. And if you had a problem with Amazon because they shipped you 20 things you don't need but still charge you, you would be on the phone to Amazon complaining. They would have to audit it, figure it out, and make it right. But we don't do this in elections. We play hide and seek with documents. We don't turn documents over, which are the property of the taxpayer. Federal law states this has to be available for 22 months for audit and inspection. That is a federal law, ratified many times over. But yet somebody can sit and say, no, we don't want to show you. You don't have access to it. That is an issue. All of these issues we can fix if we can get access to the artifact that the voter intended. And what is that? That's the physical ballot. I heard about testimony about Q codes. They wouldn't run in the machine. The one thing that was common that wouldn't run into the machine was what? You heard it, the Q code. And then you heard it had to go through a secondary audit, and it still didn't run for the employee of Dominion. They had to do it over and over and still didn't run. You know what the common denominator is in that? The code. If you go to an ATM, put in the card because you have the card, but put in the wrong PIN, what happens? Reject, 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 reject. That paper ballot was reading that code. That code was what was making it fail. It should never occur. Ever. What it was really telling you is, I've seen this before, I've seen this before, I've seen this before, and they're using the code to adjudicate it out. It's a trick in systems commonly used. Let's take a look at some of these things. This is a Fulton County ballot. You can see the voting area of Fulton County on this one. We referred to it as O8L. It narrows down to Roswell, Georgia. These are physical ballots. You know, people got extra ballots. Some people got 5 ballots. Some people got 10 ballots. Tremendous amount of Texans got Georgia ballots. All kinds of interesting things happen, right? If you ever lived in Georgia, even people that moved away 10, 11, 12 years ago, they got ballots to vote in Georgia. So here you're looking at a ballot in Fulton County. This particular county, not according to my data, but according to public data, says 67.7% of the people voted Democrat. I'm just pointing this out so you understand. I use traditional coding, the blue for the Democrat side, the red for the Republican side. Let's take a look at the next ballot, please. This is a ballot for Buckhead, Georgia. This particular one says that 69.2% voted for the Republican Party, right? This one is what we call our RR ballot. Will you roll back to the first one? Look at the top right corner of that ballot in the block that says Fulton County. Now go to the next ballot. Look at the top right corner right there that says Roswell or Buckhead. Why is there not a tracking code in that ballot? That's the code that makes it cross-check to the signature. Why is it absent? There are a lot of these inconsistencies in these ballots, and they run along party lines. Next slide, please. So here's the sample. Yes, sir, you have a question?
Yes.
Help me understand something. Can you go back up just a little bit?
If you'll come a little closer to the microphone, I'll hear you. Sorry.
When we're looking at, I'm just watching across Buckhead, Georgia, on your left side, Morgan County. I just want to make sure we're comparing apples and apples. Is there something here that's off with the data? Because it looks like we're talking about Buckhead, Georgia on your left side and Fulton County, which would be the neighborhood of Buckhead on your right side.
I'm actually showing you the two ballots and what they relate to. I don't program that. I don't write that. That's in your servers. That's what your state says. So I am serving you back according to the coding on this ballot right up in the corner of what it says it relates to.
So on the left side, did our servers make the left side of your screen that says politics and voting Buckhead?
The left side is actually the public data you can pull based on neighborhoods and areas, based on the propensity of how they voted
and then
in past elections.
The bottom is Morgan County, Georgia, but we're using the Fulton ballot. So I'm just making sure that...
I'm just giving you examples of the general areas, right? So you understand how they break down. This is the only breakdown that's available, right? And when you put in that precinct and that zip code, this is the only information available.
My question is, though, while I support your end premise, I believe, I'm concerned your data may not be the accurate data.
That's awesome, because that's not the data I'm even referring to.
Okay.
Let's get to the ballot and talk about the exact ballot, because here's why. I'm not the webmaster for this. Neither are you. I'm not the webmaster for that. Neither are you. I can throw that off the slide, and we can focus on the ballot instead of what doesn't matter. Here's what matters.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, because I'm afraid that your boxes refer to a different county, so I'm wondering...
I'm referring to the ballot.
Okay.
And if you want to continue to refer to the ballot, I will show you the ballot.
That would...
Might I invite you to ignore every footnote that goes with the ballot, only focus on the ballot.
Okay.
Right? Then we'll focus on the same exact thing.
Then we could still be talking... Okay, that's what I was wondering is...
That's all we're talking about. We're only talking about here, Georgia ballots. So if you look at this ballot here, you can confirm on your own what district that comes from. You can see it right underneath there, right?
The boxes have nothing to do with the presentation, the box on the left and the box at the
No,
bottom.
the boxes have to do to give you some reference to what outside sources say about where the ballot area is.
That's not the right ballot area.
I would suggest you submit that to the webmaster that does this for the state. I don't program it. I don't say it. And do me a favor. Will you scroll down? No, scroll down. Cover up that bottom. Now, if you look at the screen, let's look at the ballot. Don't get distracted in anything else.
Okay.
That might not even be the right red for the Republican Party or the right blue for the Democrat Party. But let's look at the ballot, may we? In fact, if you'll blow it up so big,
That would help.
if you'll just blow it up so big that people who can't connect the dots will get it, let's just look at the ballot, right? This is called simple. Let's go even further. They might get distracted by the left side. There you go. That is so fat and so big you cannot miss. We're talking about the ballot. Do you agree?
I do.
And I'm not going to roll up to the bottom so nobody gets concerned. So let's look at the differences between the two. You see the code on the right?
He's talking about
That barcode?
Okay.
Let's scroll back to the other one. Please be very careful not to show any other data to confuse people. Let's go up. There we go. Keep on going. And now let's look at the right side of the ballot. See that? There's no code there. Okay?
where it would be right there. Okay, that's the point. Okay.
Yeah, so there's no code there. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Side to side. Okay. I didn't print this ballot. I do not assign the districts. I only look at the ballots. This is what the ballot says. Let's go into the next slide, please. Okay. Again, you can discard the information at the bottom if it confuses you. We have
Sir, can I stop you for a second?
We have a yes.
Do you mind if I show you? It's not confusing. I want to show you what I was saying.
It's not. I'm only talking about the ballot. I got it. I understand completely what you're
Okay.
saying. I'm only talking about the physical ballot. On that, we agree.
Okay, good deal. That's 100%. I was
100%.
wanting to make sure that we were on the same.
100%. I think
Okay.
we're all on the same page. So please, let's zoom up so there's no confusion. You have a ballot from a Democrat propensity area on the left. I did not print the ballot, have nothing to do with it. You have a ballot from the same county on the right. I did not print the ballot, I have nothing to do with it. You're only looking at them side by side. Why is the code not there? Now let's go to the next one, please. We'll scroll it up. Okay, that code, I didn't create any of these graphics. These come from third parties. They come from how your state adjudicates these. These come from what are the checksums in the barcode. Basically, that barcode that you see missing up there is what helps adjudicate it. And if you want to zoom it way up to the bottom there, none of these graphics are mine. Keep on going. Keep on going. Keep on going. That's how you verify and adjudicate and tabulate and correlate that code. So we've now established that, wow, that code's not there. Can we go to the next slide, please? Great. Okay, let's get rid of the top so we don't get confused between the icons of the parties, and let's just look at a ballot. We've all been hunting probably or know what hunting is. We look through a scope. There's a crosshair in the center. You put that crosshair on exactly what you want to hit. That's called hitting the target. If you have hunted in your life and you're not lined up on the crosshairs and you're doing a 50-yard shot and you're kind of going to the bottom right, you're going to miss whatever your target is. I have questions about these targets. I have simple questions and forensics. Why is the ballot from one county on the left, why does it have a completely separate code in it than the one on the right? These are actually coded to where they come from. Why should you be able to look at a ballot and know whether it came from a Republican area or a Democratic area? This concerns me. I don't think you should be able to know. Can we look on to the next one, please? So let's use this target here. We'll use top pass first.
Senator Rhett had a question while you were there.
Did I see it? Sure.
I just have a quick question.
Can you speak in the microphone? I'm sorry, I'm unable to hear
I'm
you.
sorry, I was just wondering if the scanners won't show creases because the images are usually of a very low quality.
No, sir. All the machines scan at 300 DPI, which is the default, which is a standard used in any forensic investigation, right? So they all scan to the same confirmation level. So from San Francisco, California to here, they all have the same exact scan level. It's just inherent to the machine and what they see.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. The things that concern me, the ballot on the left, again, I just color-coded them to make them easy. I'm not saying everybody that lives there is a Democrat, and I'm not saying everybody on the right living there is a Republican. I'm just calling your eyes. I use this as coding so you can see what I'm saying. However, what's really interesting to me is the ballot that goes to the Republican area is printed completely off register. You remember when I told you feed $1 to the snack machine and it kicks it back? It's because that dollar's broken. It's off register. The machine says, I don't recognize this. I don't recognize this. What do you want me to do with it? Now, when it comes to a snack machine, it keeps on spitting the dollar bill out at you until you finally put in one it agrees with. At a PIN for your bank account to access your money, it's put in the right code. In the voting machines, it's saying, adjudicate me, what's going on here? Well, that's just also like a sighting device. You see how far that register is off? It makes the paper talk differently than what the machines trade to look at. Can we roll up a little, please? Yes, sir. I can't hear you very well. I am so sorry.
Would you agree that the boxes along the left and right side of the ballot create horizontal scanning areas, and the marks along the bottom edge and the top edge create scanning areas? So you have a grid on the paper.
They're like waypoints, like in GPS. It's what tells everything how to communicate.
So
if you'll scroll back to a bigger ballot, please, so we can look at, keep on going backwards. Just keep on going until there you go.
There you go.
All those hash marks on the top and bottoms, all of those are sighting, communication, and adjustment devices. Let me give you an example. Long before computers talked with programs, they talked with paper. They punched little holes in paper, and that's what programming. That's what you're looking at. That's the paper basically telling the machines to program itself. Yes.
So the marks along the left hand and the right, the vertical square boxes, they create horizontal lines or regions on the ballot.
It's only an outside adjustment. It does not create a line.
But for scanning purposes, optically, when it gets to a black box on the vertical edges, it creates a scanning area across the ballot horizontally.
That's not the actual description of what it creates.
I can describe it maybe another way. If you take that ballot right there and you print it out, and you take a straight edge and you draw from the top of the box on the left side to the top of the box on the right side, the bottom of the box on the left side to the bottom of the box on the right side, you create a series of horizontal lines.
You can connect these like a grid. Yes, sir.
And you can do the same from top to bottom.
Correct, sir.
So the width of the box on the left and the right has nothing to do with anything other. The width has nothing to do. It could be 1/8 of an inch wide or 1 inch wide. It still creates 1/8 of an inch wide scanning region across.
Untrue.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but the signature of the ink creates something different. You can't, well, here you go. I'll give you a simple test. Take a $1 bill out of your pocket. Take a $5 bill out of your pocket, cut off the 5, put it on the 1, run it through your snack machine out there, see what happens. It's all going to be the same size. It's all going to be the same markers. It's all going to be the same detection things, but that's going to kick it back because the computer must see it exactly. So you can do this own test yourself, right? It has to be exact. We, in the human world, we deal with variables all the time. That's what we're talking about in ballots. Oh, we heard it. Oh, I think that's a vote for this guy. When somebody else says, no, it's a vote for this guy. What you just described was an opinion, a variable. Machines don't operate that way. Machines have hard, absolute fact rules.
Yeah, let me, I know you don't know me. I'm actually an electrical engineer myself and have designed coin and currency processing equipment and dealt with currency scanners, so I know a whole lot about how they work. All I'm saying is all the little ovals on that ballot are lined up in that grid.
Well, are we talking about the ovals or are we talking about the hash marks on the side?
I'm talking about the ovals are lined up with those.
The ovals have an exact location on the paper. We use all of those hash marks, top to bottom, left to right, to find out where that is.
So-
let's share some common technology or terminology if it helps us communicate here. Number one, regardless to the machine, I don't care about the machine. I don't want to run another ballot through a machine. That's why we're here. So I do not care about how the machine reads it and what you're doing. I care about getting to the physical ballot. So in our world of what we're doing, which you'll understand this as a mechanical engineer, I've now said, I don't care about the machine. So now all those rules went right out the door. What I'm talking about is that piece of paper. What we do is we use those hash marks for something different. And those hash marks for something different are basically what we do when we look at the ballot. So this is the arena with no regard to what it was to do in the machine. We call it the stadium, the arena. Then when you go to the presidential area, we call that the football field. That one happens to be the Super Bowl field, I think we can agree. And you have other ones that are the state and college and local levels. And then all of them have a game ball and play. I have no regard for the smoke and mirrors of how the machines work, the hidden stuff in the code, or how this machine's supposed to be programmed. If the machine worked according to programming, none of us would be standing here. We're here because something broke. And so I'm saying, I don't care about the machine. I don't even care about the code that was written in the machine. What I care about is that physical artifact. And you know what? That physical artifact has material differences from district to district that should not be there. Now, we can all talk about, well, it's scan lines and it's this. You know, as a mechanical engineer, that doesn't create a scan line, period. That's not what creates the scan line. So, bottom line is we have differences in ballots that shouldn't be are there. Why are they there? That's why I said earlier, I'm not talking about code, because that's how this process gets derailed. That's how the smoke and mirrors happens, and nobody's get to it. Please, let's go to the bottom. So we use that as the stadium, and we have the football field, and we have the ovals. We're only looking for it. Let's keep on going forward. Here's what does matter. You as a mechanical engineer can understand this. There's the sighting device. That is the item that tells the optical eye, technically, although in mechanical engineering speak, it's not a singular eye anymore, but we'll just use that as an example. That's telling the sighting device where to look. You, as a mechanical engineer, knowing forensic, knowing dollars, writing codes, doing whatever, you yourself know that when it doesn't line up, the machine doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. It's the difference between pulling your dollar bill out like this and looking at it, pulling the same dollar bill but doing it cross-eyed. One of them doesn't make sense. One of them doesn't look at the same thing the other thing does. That's why this paper is a piece of code. So, we don't care about the scan lines, we don't care about the resolution, we don't care about any of that. We care about the piece of paper. And if you're looking at the bullseye, can we draw that up and try to keep them both in frame? Just the targets on the bottom. There you go. If we're looking at the bullseye, the very thing that says, hey, look here. Well, the left one's saying, look in my yard, and the right one's saying, look 2 houses over. But you know what? The ovals never moved because they were printed hard. So even as a mechanical engineer or photography or optics or camera, when you expect to take a picture and you hold it at somebody, you're not trying to photograph 2 people over. And this is what it tells the machine to do. This is a problem at the most lowest elementary level. And the number one way it's cloaked, well, we can't see it in the code. We don't know how it's done. Show me the code that does it. Well, that's the code. That's the code. Any printer industry executive, any monetary printing executive, any engineer in the world that deals with printing will tell you this simple fact. If your machine is not calibrated to hit the target, it becomes something else. So if we talk about machines and we talk about code, it is a smoke and mirrors not to deal with what's real and physical. Here's my contention. This is the historical artifact of a voter. And states are telling voters, you have no right to that. The very voter that pays your salary, that paid for that ballot, that paid for that piece of paper, and paid for the machine that you're running it in. And so those people that pay your salary, that you work for and do this for, you're telling them you can't look at them. That is both unacceptable and un-American. What I'm saying is, all of these problems you've heard today can be corrected and detected now by the simplest of things. It takes you days or weeks to recount votes. Give me these 500,000 ballots, we'll have them done in 2 hours. How can you complain? What is there to hide with the physical artifact of the human interaction that is putting people in office? That is unacceptable, un-American, and to talk about it any other way is smoke and mirrors, is geek gobbledygook. We want to know if these ballots are authentic or counterfeit. We want to make sure every vote is verified. This is not about President Donald J. Trump or President-elect Joe Biden. This is about, are we still a country where your vote matters? One person, one vote. If you refuse to allow the ballots to be examined, the ballots, not the smoke and mirrors, but the ballots, let the machine look at it, not the voting machine that already messed up. Machines do what you tell them. You just have it look at that and verify the vote. There's only one element that will do that. The historical artifact of the people of the United States of America, and here, the people of the state of Georgia. They trusted you that this was right. They trusted you that your vote would matter. They trusted you, I have a voice and I want my voice counted. That is only that piece of paper. It is unforgivable for somebody to be able to audit something and then the original one disappears. How convenient. You know, if you did it in your company as a mechanical engineer and you had your CPA do it or your financial guy, you'd fire them. And that's just one little bitty company. But yet we accept this as a nation? Unacceptable, un-American. So our technology can answer every bit of these. If you want to roll up, I don't even know if there's any more. So let's look at this. Here's what I have a problem with, is simplest state. This is the county's statement on ballots. Went out on national TV. We had 113,130 votes at the time, and we had to adjudicate 106,000 of them. You know what that's really saying? Your machine didn't work. When the national average for the last elections, 2016, was what? 1.2%. That's an audited number. 1.2% of the total had to be adjudicated. And then you look at 2018, nationally, 2.7%. But yet your own election officials said we had to do this 93.6% of the time. Let me decode that for you. Mr. Mechanical Engineer, your machine doesn't work. Mr. Printer, your ballot's screwed up. Because you took something that should have been transparent and easy and readable and you put an opinion smack dab in the middle of it. How is that acceptable? That's like depositing $100 and your bank says, well, we only see it as $2.33. That's our opinion of it. Would you accept that? Because that's the net effect of this. No, it is unacceptable. And by the way, where everybody talks about batch scanning, which you have on video, people standing there feeding the ballots, doing the 3-card Monty, run them again. 1-card Monty, run them again. Let me tell you how that works, right? You don't go to the bank and deposit $1,000 and say, hand it back. Let me run the same $1,000 through, and now you got a $2,000 net deposit. And you don't say, hand that $1,000 back, let me run it again, and now I got a $3,000 net deposit. We also don't take our $600 stimulus check and feed it to a Dominion machine because we get $187,000 back. Unacceptable. Now, you might be able to accept these, and everybody might try to talk quietly about it and duck their heads in the sand. This is not even a beating of a drum. This is a burning of a city. This is a broadcasting to every person who voted in Georgia. Your vote doesn't matter because we're going to decide what you really meant. So I'm up here saying I don't care what anybody's background is. You know why? It's 100% irrelevant. I only care what that piece of paper tells us. And I'm not going to listen to anybody else. You know why? Because I'm not going to be talked out of the historical artifact that the person expressed. That is the only thing that matters, not your opinion of how these machines work. It doesn't matter at all. That is just an opinion, and we all got one. The fact is the paper. The paper. Verify the vote. Verify the vote. The paper, the paper. I don't care about the councils or committees. I'm sorry. And in case you didn't tell, I'm not going to bow to it. I do care about the American people. I do not care how the vote comes down. I do care that it counts right. I do care that it's authentic. Our country was founded on a piece of paper. Our laws and our word came down to us on paper. And all of a sudden we're going to hide the paper and we don't get to look at it? Unacceptable. That is the word.
Thank you, Mr. Pulitzer. I've got a lot more witnesses, and I appreciate unless there are any questions.
Any
Senator
questions?
Beach?
I'm going to make a statement first, but I do think there was a well-coordinated effort with several groups to commit widespread and systemic fraud from out-of-state voters, felons voting, and drop boxes, chain of custody, and now finding out the Dominion machines didn't scan from her testimony. But I think the real fraud, in my opinion, occurred at the State Farm Arena. Did you see that video?
Yes, sir.
I cannot think that there was not fraud there. And I would tell you, my question to you is, if we were able to subpoena those ballots between 10:30 and 1 a.m., would you be able to tell if they were counterfeit or legitimate? And if you were, what probability would you be able to tell that? I mean, what would be the probability of your
This is
findings?
100%, and let me tell you why it's 100%. First off, this is a combination of computer vision. Computer visions are now how your car self-drives, and you trust that? It's how we look at everything on an assembly line, that those tolerances for that jet engine are perfect so that plane does not fall out of the sky. That's all computer vision. Machine learning is looking at these patterns and going, I've seen this. What does it mean? I've seen this. What does it mean? So every time you feed in a ballot, it keeps on learning. And then it uses artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence goes, wow, what do all these patterns tell us? That's it. And so on those ballots, you could take a section of every hour of the day and look at them, or you could take that spike. What could we tell? Was this the real ballot? Did you know there is a forensic difference between a ballot that was officially printed and something that ran on a high-speed press that should have never been on a duplicated press? This is why people are screaming to look at the physical ballot, because we will tell you instantly what came out of a mass copier versus what came out of a printer, officially printed. We will tell you, did a human fill this out, or did a machine fill it out? We will tell you, was it mailed, Or was it not mailed? It can be checked against spoiled or adjudications. There's still going to be a difference in number. And last but not least, we will tell you, have we seen this number before? Did we see it keep popping back up? We're looking at the wrong things. I suggest every one of you, if you want to understand what we really should be looking at, go into your computer right now and change your clock in your computer to 1900. Watch it shut down and nothing work. And you can't get back in to change the date. This should be looked at with timestamps and dates and the correct portion of code, not the smoke and mirror codes we're being fed. And you will see what got run over and over and over and over again. That is the problem of why we must see the physical ballot is the holy grail. The second one is the digital scan. So yes, sir, all of that can be detected, unbiased, and exactly just what the forensic science says, the scientific method, not the opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Senator Rhett.
Yes, sir. I was just wondering if the information that you're presenting is it.
Can you, I'm really sorry. I read lips. I have a hearing problem. It's part of why I talk so loud, but.
I was just wondering if the information you're presenting was based on your personal experience working with election machines?
My experience, this has never been done for election machines before. This is exactly how counterfeit money is detected. The election machines have always tried to hide the physical ballots so it can't be done. What I've spent the last 24 years in understanding how papers and machine and internet interact. I spent the last 6 years almost understanding the paper reading details at the nano level. I can tell you what paper came from China. I can tell you the person that handled it was a smoker. All of it is detectable with the physical ballot. So yes, 24 years doing this, the last 6 years doing it in the new field of science, looking at it at the nano level. We don't even have to look at color anymore. We look at waveforms and frequencies and lines and curves. But yes, sir, 100% detectable, and this is what my whole career has been about. And it is also why a tremendous amount of the functions on your mobile phone work. You interact with me 8, 9, 10 times a day on your phone. You just didn't know it was this loud guy, right, who has a hearing problem. I'm very sorry, but it's just the way it is, right? It's probably because I grew up the youngest and I had to talk over my older brothers and sisters. It's just kind of the way it goes. Right. But you interact with me and you depend on these things. When you walk into an airport and you no longer present that boarding pass and use that phone, that code's there, and you boop, and you go through, that's me. And you depend on that to get on that plane and make sure they have your reservation. These are simple. These are simple. And in case you can't tell, I can get really technical and deep and geeky, but I try not to because this is simple. Simple.
Well, we're going to need to move on to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
I need to move on to Mr. Garland Favorito.
By the way, for the state of Georgia, we'll do this for the people. We'll do it absolutely for free. The moment you let us do it, we'll put it in the system, and we will give you the answers you seek.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. They're getting my presentation up.
Let me just say, if we were kind of running behind, so I need for you to kind of, I know you're going to do quick.
Well, you've heard me before. You know how fast I am.
That's right.
So, and I do want to address Senator Beach's question. We do have a motion to compel Fulton County right now to produce those ballots, but I'll get to that at the end. My name is Garland Favorito. I'm a career IT professional. I have over 40 years of information technology experience. I co-founded the nonpartisan Voter GA, Voters Organized for Trusted Election Results. 16 years ago, we've been leading the election integrity effort here in Georgia ever since. I wanted to take about 30 seconds to tell you how we got here, just to remind you. Last year, the U.S. District Court banned the old DBO DRE system as unconstitutional because it lacked verifiability, auditability, and recount capability. That is exactly what I told the Assistant Secretary and the system evaluators in 2002, 17 years earlier. That ruling last year overturned the Georgia Supreme Court ruling against us in 2009, and And last year, the Georgia General Assembly legalized the new unverifiable voting systems that hide the votes in QR codes. The Secretary of State purchased Dominion Democracy Suite 5.5, BMD system for ballot marking device, and then the U.S. District Court found that it does not meet Georgia law just recently in regards to verifiability. So the question you probably want to know is, what were my roles in the 2020 election? Fast forward. I was the State Farm Arena observer. I'm going to walk you through that, and I'm glad to answer any questions about that. I was a Fulton tabulation observer at the warehouse over there. I was an audit monitor. I was a recount monitor. And I also, as my role in the Constitution Party of Georgia as elections director, we coordinated hundreds of volunteers in dozens of counties to monitor the recount and the audit. As a Fulton County tabulation observer, I noticed an abnormal 20,000 vote spike for Joe Biden. I notified the elections director, the board, and the county attorney about that. I made an ORR request, open records results, for the interim results, but never received a response. As an audit monitor, we noticed 3 boxes and stacks on tables of 100% Biden ballots. That is mathematically, if not impossible, it is improbable beyond the nth degree. We also had 4 auditors that detected potentially fraudulent ballots that Javon talked about earlier. These they were not creased from being mailed, they were not marked with writing instruments, and there were differences in ballot stock. I immediately filed an open records request to view those ballots in the custody of the elections department with Fulton County, contacted all the same people at Fulton County again, attorneys, board members, and so on, but my request was ignored. So, I know some of you might be asking, why are we here? Haven't we counted these votes 3 times? Well, the original election results accumulated votes that were hidden in a barcode. That barcode is 100% unverifiable to the voters in the state of Georgia. The recount, according to the State Election Board rule, rescans the barcode, which simply reprints the previous unverifiable results. A recount is meaningless in the state of Georgia, according to SEB rules. You might say, well, we had a full hand count audit, didn't we? And yes, we did, and yes, that would have been a good thing. However, there were 3 fatal flaws in the hand count audit. First one was, in most counties, they did not separate and have a Democrat and Republican sitting at each table. Some counties did it right, most of them, some of them did not. The data upload point, where all the data goes in from those hand counts, was not monitored. In some counties, such as Fulton, they did not want that spot to be monitored. The third problem, which you've heard earlier, and I won't elaborate on from Mr. Cochran, the counties were forced to enter the data into the Secretary of State system. And the Secretary of State told them what the results were from their own audit. The counties, as you heard earlier, have no result totals for their own audit. So elections, which are always reported from the bottom up, precincts to county and state, in this case, the state actually reported the results of the audit top down. That's an issue. Any one of those 3 fatally flawed it. There were lots of other monitor problems I'm not going to go into. The 6-foot distancing restriction basically made monitoring meaningless. You couldn't get close enough to look at a ballot or anything else. In addition, we as Constitution Party of Georgia monitors were refused access in Fulton and Cobb counties, even though we had a qualified write-in candidate on the presidential ticket. We think that's a violation of law. I want to quickly go through the Dominion system anomalies very fast, and I'll close with State Farm, which I think is what you're very interested in. Spalding County had an update, according to the elections director, on election eve to the poll books. That update caused nearly a 2-hour delay on Election Day at Spalding County. The update was not reflected in the audit trail, according to the Secretary of State, which is a problem technically. What was the response to this? Well, our response was, let's do a forensic exam on the no-ink poll books. That would be the obvious thing to do. The Secretary of State attempted to get the elections director, Marcia Ridley, fired. In Coffee County, you've already heard about that. I won't go into that. They ran 3 recounts and obviously erroneous numbers on all 3 recounts. First time they found 39 votes for the same number of ballots. Then the second one, they added 185 ballots and it didn't change the count. The third time they ran it again, still couldn't get it to run. 3 recounts, 5 total counts. The Dominion text you already heard could not solve the problem. The board provided 13 megabytes of documentation to the Georgia House Committee to explain all of this, as Kathy did earlier. So what's the response? Our response was, let's do a forensic exam. Somebody's got to do a forensic exam on the Coffee County server. The Secretary of State decided to open an investigation into the county for the problem that the Dominion machines caused. And now I want to go to Ware County. The system flipped 37 votes from President Trump to former Vice President Biden. That's a fact. I know you've heard that it's not true. I'm going to talk about that. How do we know that that happened? This was discovered by Dr. Earl Martin, a Waycross City Commission candidate. He notified me about this problem, and we got the certified election results from the county. We got the published hand count results for the same number of ballots, and they confirmed 37 votes were in fact shorted from President Trump and added to Joseph Biden, the former vice president, in Ware County, according to the results. And we got that in writing from the elections director of Ware County. I put that in an unrebutted affidavit with the attachments and the possible explanations so that there could be no dispute about that. That's the only unrebutted affidavit for this entire episode that occurred. So what was the response to this one? We suggested there needs to be a forensic exam, and I know even at least one of the senators here attempted to get a forensic exam on this machine. It still has not been done. Instead, the Secretary of State sent a threatening letter to the counties to tell them not to allow forensic exams on Dominion machines. Now, you might have heard the fact check on this that says that this was false. Let me address that. This came from USA Today. They said that this was false. They had my press release. It had my phone number on it. They never called me. They dropped something into a box that we never checked and told us, well, we decided that your press release is false. They never got any facts. They didn't get the affidavit. And I called them up, and I told them what they had done wrong, and we had a long conversation about that. They offered to print my rebuttal, and then they didn't print my rebuttal because it was pretty blistering. So the USA Today lied. The fact check is a lie, and my unrebutted affidavit stands as the only thing that was held up in a court of law about Ware County. 37 votes flipped from Trump to Biden. That's a fact, and nobody can dispute that yet in a court of law. And I want to go to State Farm. This is what you... I was there at State Farm Arena, and I know it's hard to understand. I'm not going to go through the chronology because I know you don't have time for that, but I want to just point out to the fact that this room is curved. It's just like this desk. You can't see around the corner. You don't know what's going on. There are multiple violations here of Georgia law, the curvature of the room, the monitor positioning. You were over in a left-hand corner, in the back left-hand corner. You can't see around the corner what's going on in the right-hand corner. There's a skirted table. That's another violation. Hidden ballot bags, stopping and restarting the scanning. I've got the code sections up there. Those are some of the violations of Georgia law, which I'm sure you folks are familiar with. Immediately after those ballots were scanned, within 40 minutes, by the time they got over and tabulated them at the warehouse, the election line feed jumped up with, as you can see in the yellow here, 136,000 votes for Joe Biden appeared after that, 29 for Trump. There's something wrong there. David Cross is going to go into more detail with about that, the line feeds. He's coming up next. So I'm going to skip over that. Now, I want to spend some time, though, however, on debunking the debunkers. There's a few questions that we have heard from the Secretary of State's office, a few statements. Did the monitors decide to leave on their own? We've heard this over and over. Well, the video shows the announcement where they cease scanning for the evening. You can see that clearly. Videos don't usually lie. There are 2 affidavits from the monitors that confirm what you see on the video. Those are sworn affidavits. The scanning appears to stop before the monitors leave, and then the monitors return after they find out that the scanning continued. The Secretary of State's office was notified one of those monitors. So the IG claiming that the monitors decided to leave on their own is completely bogus. The manager of the voting system implementation then says that this was normal ballot processing at the State Farm Arena. I beg to differ. The table was skirted to hide ballots. That's a violation of law. The ballots were not processed from the wall as normal. They were hidden under the table. The ballots were already removed from the envelopes. The envelope openers are in the room. Why were they already removed? The ballots were scanned onto memory cards after the monitors left, another violation of law. We talked about the curvature of the room, but here's the key thing, as Jovan has already said. Multiple scanners, if you watch that video, continually rescanned the same stack of ballots. Now, that could happen if there was a problem, but as you can see from the video, they kept just running them through. They were not interacting with the machine as though there was a problem. They were simply rescanning those same stack of ballots over and over again. So, there was a fact check about this one as well. Lead Stories did a fact check, another false fact check. They claimed that Watson's declaration, she was the IG, was a sworn affidavit. Those of you who know law know that a declaration has no basis in a court of law. It's not a sworn affidavit. And the Inspector General would probably never swear to what she said because she could be held accountable for perjury. So let's look, now that we have gotten through of all of the garbage that's out there and the facts that are not facts, let's look at actually what are the compelling evidence about State Farm Arena. First of all, the video evidence shows that a group of workers illegally scanned thousands of unsealed ballots and tens of thousands. They were hidden under a skirted table. There were 5 scanners. The scanners run about 3,000 ballots an hour, and they scanned for nearly 2 hours. The monitors were told scanning would stop for the night, but it continued. Facts. 2 affidavits confirm that. The announcement that you saw on the video. There are also 3 media reports out there quoting the Fulton County Communications Director as saying that scanning was going to stop for the night. That's the evidence. Those are the facts. We had 4 affidavits from experienced auditors claiming that they handled fraudulent ballots. The election line feeds shows the huge spike in Biden votes after the scanning. We have 2 affidavits on that. And then we have Fulton County's response to all that. They terminated 2 whistleblowers, one of whom is here today to testify again. You've heard from the other one once. They kept the State Farm Arena personnel that did this on the payroll. And now they are refusing to show us the ballots, as Jovan mentioned. We have filed suit against Fulton County. We just filed it last week and we want to inspect the ballots. We want a visual inspection of the ballots. We want the forensic exam that Jovan has described, and we want the digital ballot images and the election reports. All of that should be public, but it is not. because Georgia does not operate transparent elections, and that's got to change. We can't continue with this kind of corruption. So the Secretary of State it seems to be determined to cover up for Fulton County. That is probably disgusts me more than the cheating that went on. So I want to close with a nonpartisan perspective. I want to just make it clear, I did not vote for either one of these two candidates that we're talking about. I'm elections director of the Constitution Party. We ran our own candidate. He was a write-in candidate named Don Blankenship. I voted for him, as did Dr. Earl Martin down in Waycross. Neither one of our votes were counted. If you look at the official statements of records, even though he was a qualified candidate, our votes are gone and missing, and we have sued the county, Fulton County, over that as well. I didn't vote for them. I just want to appeal both to my Republican friends here and my Democrat friends. We were here last year, and again, I appreciate you taking the time for me. My appeal is to the Republican friends. House Bill 316 was one of the worst bills that the legislature's ever passed. I apologize, but that's what got us here. And to my friends who are Democrats, this deal is real. We've got to do something about it because Georgia electors belong to the President of the United States. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Favorito. Appreciate your presentation, and that summed up a lot of things. We need to move on now to Mr. David Cross. David Cross. Okay. Mr. Cross, if you could go to the podium.
All right. Got a presentation.
Okay. Mr. Cross, we're running real behind. Would you be able to synthesize this into about 5 minutes, you think?
Do my best.
All right.
I'll speak fast if you can listen fast.
We'll listen fast. Go ahead and tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself.
So my name is David Cross. I own an investment management firm. We do financial planning and investment management in Duluth, Georgia. I've been in the business for about 30 years. I can't believe it.
And what is your connection to the election and what you're going to tell us?
So I'm just a concerned citizen. I reached out to some folks to just kind of figure out what happened on election night. I went to bed thinking, that looked pretty solid that Trump was going to win, and then woke up the next morning and I'm like, what on earth happened? So I started diving into the data. Thank you. And Garland just showed you this slide a couple minutes ago, but what I did was I was able to go in and pull down the entire data feed from the Edison feed, which comes from Seidel, which comes from the Secretary of State. It's not perfect, but it's what we have because the Secretary of State won't give us the original data feed. So how do we just go sideways here? All right, so what you're looking at here is the big spike that happened, and this blue line right here, it happened in 4 states. That's impossible. There'll be other data analysts that'll show that to you. I'll skip past this. This just shows you additional vote spikes that happened in after hours. Anybody who wants a copy of this, I'll send it to you. There, of course, is, all right, so why don't we have original timestamp data? Secretary of State won't give it to us, all right? If this is a transparent election, why are citizens not able to see it? And with so many issues, why is the Secretary of State not investigating? Why do I have to take time out of running my business and taking care of my clients to come down here and do the work of the Secretary of State? That's inexcusable. Here's Michigan. You see the exact same vote spike that happened where Biden got 141,000 votes and Trump got 5,900. Not possible. There's the same Michigan vote spike graphically. Here's Wisconsin, same thing. 143,000 votes come in for Biden, 25,000 for Trump, same vote spike. All right, what I'm going to show you now is what I actually witnessed at the second recount, the ballot recount that happened down at the World Congress Center. When I was down there, they had 13 scanners that were set up. We were able to go through and take a look at the scanners as they were pushing ballots through. I could get this close to the ballots if I wanted to. You couldn't see anything. I mean, it was just running through 100 miles an hour. I could get this far away from the monitors that the scanners were using. I couldn't read anything on the screen because the font was shrunk down so low. So me as a monitor walking around looking at the rescans was pointless. So another part of the area they had, they call them ballot totes. All right, it's a black suitcase with a locking mechanism to it. I went through and looked at. They had several hundred of these black suitcases lined up, and I'm walking through the different lines of them, and I see that there are these 9 that don't have secure tabs on them. No red tab. I walk back over and tell a couple of my other friends that are over there that are witnesses, and they said, David, that's not possible. Every single one of those has got a red locking tab on it. So I took them back over, and as I approached one of the bags, its zippers were close to the floor. I pointed at it with my foot 6 inches away, and a lady comes running over and says, you just kicked that bag. You can't do that. You're out of here. She brought 2 security guards with her, and she kicked me out. But not before a lady from the press actually got a picture of the bag. You can see it right there. There's no locking mechanism on it at all. And there's a close-up of the actual identifier, of the tag identifier. This is not supposed to happen. When I looked at the bags, there could have been anywhere from 0 ballots inside that bag, which was unlikely since so many people were voting absentee, because this is where the absentee ballots were kept. The largest number I saw in any one bag was 3,411. If you take the average between 0 and 3,400, you get 1,700. Multiply that times 9, you get 15,200 ballots, potentially, that are unaccounted for, no chain of custody. 15,000 ballots is enough to throw Fulton County into not being certified. And in fact, when the Fulton County Board of Elections met, 2 of the board members voted not to certify. So if Fulton County's out, then the whole state's out. Here's a better close-up. There was a story that was done by the press. She just took my statement, put it up online. Now what I want to get to is, how does this happen and why is this relevant? This gentleman, Bernard Talmadge, owns a company called the Operations Group, Ardley Group, and we also think Block by Block. He is a known ballot harvester. He has been caught in Indiana. Charges were brought against people that work for him, but they were ultimately dropped because the authorities said it couldn't have really affected anything. It's not a big deal, so they let it slide. What we know is that there were ballots here on the left, or not ballots, checks that were found in 2018, several hundred, all made out for $75. I'll go back here. Made out from the Operations Group and sometimes from Ardley Group for $75. There's an investigative reporter down in Florida named Tom Lauder that did a write-up about this, and what he found was, in interviewing witnesses, he found out that people that worked for the Operations Group and the Ardley Group were paid $15 per hour to produce ballots. Now, they had a quota of 10 per hour, which works out to 1 every 6 minutes. If you're running door to door in an apartment complex, you couldn't get 1 ballot every 6 minutes. It's not going to happen. You couldn't get 1 registration every 6 minutes. It's just not going to happen. So how does that happen? And incidentally, his companies, according to the Federal Election Commission, have taken in $9.1 million for field operations. $9.1 billion, when you divide that by $75 and multiply it times 50 votes, that's enough money to produce 6 million ballots. So here's a spreadsheet from last night from all the people who gave him money. One of the crazy things that's on here is that 1/3 of the $9 million came from the main Democratic Party. They didn't even take in $3 million during the 2019-2020 election. So I sent this letter out to a bunch of check cashers and liquor stores, 400 of them. Again, me doing the work of the Secretary of State. Sent it out, and I had 2 folks that called me back. One provided copies of checks from 2018. Here again, here's a check. This one's for $80. I blocked out the name of the person who received it, but this was payment for field services. What's interesting is that of the checks that were provided, the one on the top here, I don't know if you could see it really well, it says it came from, the check is written on an account from McDreams Enterprises. And on the bottom, the check is written from Ardley Group. Now the strange thing is that the signature on both of the checks is the same. The routing number is the same. The account number is the same. So what's going on? Again, another job for the Secretary of State, the GBI, and probably the FBI. There's a video that's circulating on the internet of a printer in China that was ordered, or he had an order for 5 million fake ballots to come back. One of the things he said in the video that he could not accomplish was to reproduce magnetic ink. That was one impossibility for him. So if you're going to do a forensic analysis of the ballots, you need to look for paper composition, which International Paper said that they can do, and there's another independent consultant that's up in Wisconsin that can do it. And you also need to do a test for the magnetic ink. This is just some brief data on the total number of registered voters and the 2020 population, just to show you some obvious anomalies here. Alaska has a total of 597,000 registered voters. The population is 734,000. But if you subtract out the number of people under the age of 18, which is 24.6% of the population, they end up with having 43,000 people over-registered. So they have 108% real registered voters. This is where some of the names are come from, we believe, and circulated around. More interesting information for you. This came out this morning. Doug Stafford says, my wife got a text thanking me for voting in the state of Georgia and asking to get her friends to vote. Doug says it's interesting because she's been a Virginia voter for 15 years, never lived in Georgia. So the next obvious question is, well, who the hell is Doug Stafford? He's the chief strategist for Rand Paul. All right, so this is not some nobody that's out there just throwing around some unsubstantiated rumor. B.J. Van Gundy, who sued the state. Here's his actual signature on his driver's license on the left. There is his signature for his absentee application that he did not ask for. One of your colleagues. Here's his signature on his driver's license on the top, and then here's his innocuous signature in the center for his absentee ballot. Do you guys know this guy? Does anybody know him? Okay. This is your duty. You have the power to correct an obviously manipulated election. The governor only reports the vote of the legislature. The question is will you take corrective action? Will you stand up for America, or are you going to sit quietly while China brings in a Manchurian candidate? How will you answer to your grandchildren when they ask, what did you do? I know what I'm going to answer. It's a fantastic documentary for you folks to watch. It's called Kill Chain. It'll show you exactly how these voting machines can be hacked into. I know a lot of folks that are in here, or some folks that are in here will say, oh, that's just a bunch of fanciful BS. It can't happen. Go buy one of the machines and plug it in. And the moment you plug it in, it will say, would you like to connect in the internet?
Thank you.
Last thing, who is this counting ballots?
Oh, there it's come up. Is that it?
Yes, and November the 20th, Friday morning, I'm watching all of these ballots being shredded now. Unbelievable. Just move up and let's see what else is going out. Massive amounts of ballots right there going out.
Miller Park.
Is that the building where ballots stored in that building?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
where the voting was
Yes,
occurring?
right outside where they, and I've got another video right after this that'll explain that.
Were you able to see what was being shredded?
Yes, sir. I have pictures, and you'll see now. It's the next one, please.
This is Susan Knox. I am in Cobb County.
It's actually,
Jim Miller
it says
Park.
trash can. There's two on the bottom that they put together
Friday
for me.
morning, November 20th. Here is a
It says trash can. There they are. It says shred on that box right there. And according to Janine Eveler, in a statement she made, there was absolutely nothing that was shredded that shouldn't have been. There were no ballots, and she made a statement. A1 Shredding and Recycling put a statement out on Saturday, November 21st, stating they were a family-owned business and that they did not mean to get in the mix of this, and that I think they had gone to the FBI or the GBI because there had been so much backlash after my videos went viral.
But you're in that trash can, those were ballots.
Yes, sir. I'd love to give you a close-up picture. You can pass these around.
Do you know who paid A1 Shredding?
I do not. But when Janine Eveler came out and said there was absolutely nothing that should not have been shredded, I would just like to ask her under oath what I saw shredded. And Sally Grubbs is coming up after me, and she came to Jim Miller Park and pulled in because she heard they were shredding ballots. She went straight up to the truck, almost blocked him in. He started pulling out. I called 911 twice. They did not come to Jim Miller Park. I called them. I have the recordings. If y'all wanted to listen to the recordings, I'm begging them to send a police or a sheriff, because I said, what is more important that our presidential election, and they're shredding ballots at Jim Miller Park? They never showed up.
Mr. Chairman, I would just say that this should be very easy. If we're supposed to hold ballots for 22 months and we know X amount was voted on in Cobb County with absentee ballots, they should be able to produce that amount. If they can't, and it comes up minus 30,000, then 30,000 ballots were shredded. I mean, it should be very, very easy to find that information out.
Yeah, Senator.
Thank you for being here. Did you report it to the Secretary of State's office?
Sir, I reported it to anybody and everybody that would listen to me.
Did you get a response from the Secretary of State's office?
No.
Pretty common?
Sir?
It's pretty common.
Senator Rett?
Yes, ma'am. Usually ballots are under court seal for 2 years. Then after that, they're allowed to be shredded. Do you know anything about the date on those ballots, or if they've met that 2-year threshold?
Well, based on, I had been a monitor for 5 days there and have reams of videos of all the ballots coming and going and being stored and pulled back out and pulled into building the next hall, which was, I was in C. They were going from C to B and back. And so all I can tell you is that if you look closely on these, and that was a live shot, so you can hold your finger on my camera and it gets some surrounding things, which I can prove to you all. I can't help but believe that these were this election's ballots. I mean, why would they be shredding 2 years, and why would they be at Jim Miller Park? It's not secure, and it's not even a government facility, I don't believe. But I will tell you, when I called 911 twice and nobody showed up, and Sally and I ended up at the police station, precinct 2, and the person on the phone behind the wall told us that they were told 10 minutes earlier that they were not to do anything with election fraud or anything in Cobb County dealing with the election. that we had to go to the Secretary of State and to the GBI. And we did. And we got nothing.
Got nothing. Okay. Yes, Senator Heath.
Maybe in some of your videos, or do you have any photographs of actual ballots being shredded?
Well, what do you think those were in that can that he was shredding? It says an official ballot.
That appears to be the envelopes that are the inner envelopes from.
If you look closely, some of them look like they've never even been unsealed.
I was trying to find ballots in the picture, and I don't see ballots, and I was hoping
Could you bring that back up? I can show you in that trash can very closely. It says. Right there, and I can tell you because I was there with my phone. And there's a picture with a plastic bag that says.
Yeah, this picture?
Yes, sir.
Look, I'm not trying to discredit your testimony. I just don't see ballots. I just see envelopes here.
Sir, it says official. Do you not see where it says BALLO?
Yes, ma'am, and right below that it says ballot must be enclosed.
Okay, if they're supposed to keep anything for 22 months, why would they be shredding even the envelope? And I was told, too, that the people who were supposed to be opening these ballots were supposed to put their name, the time, and the date, and they were supposed to be kept for 22 months. I just find it suspect that the day that Cobb County is going to certify our election, that they had a shredding truck pull up at 10 after 11, and they were going to certify that afternoon. And they also put on the outside of the door, which I have video of, a fraudulent number to call for election. Any questions? It said Jim Miller Park is closed to the public. If you have election questions, please call. I called the number. It was an elderly white woman that slammed the phone down on me, and I called back and I said, ma'am, your number is on the outside of Jim Miller Park for election questions. She said, I have no idea who that is. Don't call me again, and slammed the phone down.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you
for being here.
Thank
I think
you.
Ms.
Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. My name is Sally Grubbs, Grubbs, and I'm from Marietta, Georgia. And Senator Redd, I'd like to make your acquaintance. I apologize I've not been able to connect with you. I think that we have some business in Cobb County that needs to be attended to. I came previously to testify and didn't make the cut list, but I will happily cede to Rudy Giuliani at any time. I do want to say that one citizen, one vote is what it should be. I was there for the recount at Jim Miller Park on the 13th. I saw a number of different things, and I've submitted 2 affidavits previously. I have them here if anyone would like to see them. But there's a recurring theme, and that is our Secretary of State's office. I was there when I got the phone call. I met Susan Knox, incidentally, on Friday the 13th. What a better day to meet someone when you're trying to ensure a presidential election is handled honestly, and it's not just the presidential election, it's all the down ballot votes that we have in Cobb County. We had a complete upset in Cobb County that I don't think was fair, honest, or very American, what's happened. There's lots of details that I can give you. I have lots of information here about how they sorted ballots. I have video that can be submitted. But one thing is becoming clear. It doesn't seem to matter how much evidence we present. We're going to get the questions. Were those actual ballots in there? First of all, in an election, they seal the boxes with evidence tape. And it's called evidence tape because those papers are evidence in the election. The envelopes are evidence, and anything written that goes in the evidence box is evidence. There should have been no shredding. In Cobb County, Georgia, Jim R. Miller Park is a fairground. They tore down our old exhibit halls and they built new exhibit halls. There's exhibit hall A, B, and C. They're all under one roof. When I went to go observe, I asked what was going on in exhibit hall B, and I was told, you don't need to stay in there. You don't need to go in there. There's nothing going on in there. You stay in exhibit hall C. And exhibit hall C during the recount is where they were sorting the absentee ballots into bins for rescanning. They were sorting the printed ballots for rescanning. I posted a video that has been shared quite a lot of, I'm standing 6 feet away and they're putting, Biden, 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 Trump, 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 supposedly. Don't know how they can even see what's written on the paper. I do wear glasses, but I couldn't even get close enough. They're a couple of feet away while we're having to stay 6 feet away, and we got scolded, we got yelled at, we got belittled, we got harassed. And after the shredding, when I was with Susan, now let me be clear, Jim Miller Park is not a government facility where they have the tax assessor, the tax commissioner, the tag office, and all of that. It is a state fairground or county fairground location. They're only using it because of COVID. So they're only using it for the election purposes. There is no other reason for there to be any other documentation at Jim Miller Park. If you go into Exhibit Hall A, B, and C, all you see is election stuff. I found out after the fact that in Exhibit Hall B, where I was not allowed, there were 2 days of voter review panel activity going on with no Republican representation at all. I was purposely told not to go in there. Y'all, I'm a businesswoman. I'm a mother of 2 wonderful boys. I am not an election specialist. I am a United States citizen, and I am here to see, and I participated because I want to be sure our vote is protected. And when somebody calls me and says they're shredding ballots, I left work. People thought somebody in my family died. That's how fast I left to go see what was going on. And Susan and I followed that shredding truck to see where it was going. I thought surely people care enough that when you're on the phone with 911, the police would come. The police didn't come. We go to the Cobb County Precinct on Austell Road to make a report. They wouldn't take a report. I made a report with the Secretary of State. I got an email from Francis Watson, and I was told, oh, that's routine shredding. Now, this is not the regular location of the Board of Elections. I just stood up here in the center and listened to the press conference with the GBI. Now, Vic Reynolds is from Cobb County, a very respectable man, but I've got to tell you that Gabe Sterling and Jordan Fuchs in the Secretary of State's office have done nothing but obstruct, belittle, and bemoan. And I have Facebook posts right here that I would be happy to share with someone. Facebook posts, what does that mean? Well, that means that anyone who keeps talking about election fraud, since it doesn't exist, that they are the same as people from Iran. That's what was posted. And so I got into a conversation about that. And this was the post. Gabe Sterling posted this. Iran has worked to foment division in our nation. Those continuing to claim the election was stolen are supporting the tactical actions of Iran. This is the state of Georgia. This is the city of Atlanta. And I want Mr. Sterling to answer for accusing people like me who have a job and children and families. I want him to come in here and explain to me how I'm like someone from Iran trying to steal an election. When we have seen the fraud, we have been lied to, we have been distracted, we've been held up, and we're tired of it. And it's time that you people stand up. And I have emailed legislators. We have formed a group called the Angry Patriots of Georgia, and you can tell I'm angry. I am tired of people that we vote to put in office are stabbing us in the back, and they're not doing anything to protect anything. We have begged for you to convene the legislature. We have had people come from out of state on their own dime. I've spent hundreds of my own dollars trying to get the point across. Susan has spent hundreds of her own dollars to get you people to listen, and I don't know what it's going to take. I, honest to God, don't know what it's going to take. Every legislator got a DocuSign document that people don't even bother to open. We are the citizens of this state. We deserve to be heard, and we are tired of it. How many people do we have to drag through here? I'm missing work right now. I missed work the last hearing, Senate hearing. We have begged to be heard, and I'm asking, are you hearing us yet? Is anyone hearing us yet? What do you need to know? I will tell you. Would you like to see my phone that I've backed up in 5 different places because I'm afraid someone's going to steal it and steal the evidence? And you know what? In Jim Miller Park, you can't take a phone in there now. If they're so lily white clean, as they say from the GBI, how come you can't even have a phone in there anymore? That screams fraud to me, and it's happening in the Senate election, and that election needs to be stopped until we have a better way to vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm passionate. I'm not going to apologize for being passionate. And I'm not going to apologize for being a patriot either.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you. No, ma'am. I think what you said is something that's felt by many people across this state, hundreds of thousands of people. And I appreciate your time. I appreciate the fact, and the members of this committee appreciate the fact that you came and you waited the last time and that you took your time to come back today. So thank you for doing what you've done and for being willing to stand up and tell about what you've seen. So
Thank you very much. I
Okay.
appreciate it greatly.
all right, we're just going to take a quick 5-minute break. We have a few more witnesses, and we'll come back and we'll try to wrap it up.